Well, very glad to be here. This is one place in this area that I have not been in before. I've been here to the university several times, but never had the privilege of coming up and getting into this part of the college. And it's a real privilege for me to be here and see all you guys. But if anybody has any questions or something like that, they want to render, I'll see what I can do to finish up.
Lauren, do you want me to just give him a...
Yeah.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Hello? My name is Ed McGrath, and I'm a friend of Lauren's. He and I met about 1.5 years ago through the good graces of Google, because at the time I was researching Pearl Harbor, and I Googled names of the Pearl Harbor survivors, and amongst 13, Lauren's name came up, and I called him and went out to see him. He said, "Come on out." He lives 40 minutes from my home, and he and I have been together ever since. I go out and spend Thursday mornings with him. My wife Diane cooks him dinner Thursday night, and we have spent about 2 hours in Hawaii, which is where I'm from, and which is where Lauren spent a lot of his early military life, in the islands of Hawaii. In Hawaii they call it talking story, and that's what Lauren and I do on Thursdays when I go to see him. And it's just, you know, Pearl Harbor is just a small part, very, very important part of Lauren's career. But he spent the entire war, World War II, he was in it at the beginning when the United States was attacked at Pearl Harbor. And he was one of a very elite group of people who were able to escape, okay, because his personal God, our collectively personal God, wanted he and these other gentlemen who survived that fateful day to go out and serve our country in other ways. Lauren was burned 70% of his body when the Arizona was bombed and blew up. He spent 7 months in the hospital. After, and Lauren tells me these stories, I'm only retelling what he told me. I'm doing good. He'll kick me if I get something wrong. But in those days in the military, you could, if you went through something traumatic or you were wounded, then you could get out of the service. They would generally let you go home and say, "Thank you very much." Lauren says, unless they needed you. So the Navy needed this man, and after 7 months, the day before he was supposed to be released, the Navy said, 1 minute, we have a new ship for you. And then what Lauren likes to say is he went from there back into the fight, and he spent the rest of the war on the destroyer USS Coghlan. And you would think that fate, as he was going through his military career, you're saying, I'm sure that because he went through such a traumatic thing for our country, that he's going to have easy riding the rest of the war. That's not the case. In other words, and I'm getting goosebumps when I'm talking about this, because Lauren went on the Coghlan, and the Coghlan was a destroyer, brand new destroyer. Lauren is a plankman from that ship, meaning he was there at the beginning, and he was there when they retired the ship. During that time, the Coghlan received 8 major battle stars, which means they were in 8 of the greatest naval battles of World War II. And again, I'm getting goosebumps because some of the battles that Lauren was in the Coghlan, I mean, you have the captain of the and I don't know the history of the military. I'm a storyteller. But the way I look at it, Lauren was equally responsible for the lives of all the people on the destroyer because he was the director of the guns on the destroyer. So you had the captain or the admiral, I'm not sure which it was, Lauren. Captain. And he positioned and made the decisions on what to do in a battle, but it was Lauren and the crew that worked for him that sighted the enemy, gave the information to the plotting room, and was able to defend the ship in all of those battles. Go ahead, do you have a question?
Same position as Donald Stratton on the Arizona. Is that the case?
Donald Stratton was in the director with me. Yeah, he was with me all the time. He sat 4 feet from me.
Wow. I met him here a couple of years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So, go
I
ahead.
have a question. I'm sorry.
No, go.
My uncle William P. Westcott is serving aboard the Arizona now. One of the things that we always see are these photographs of that day. What was it like to sail on the Arizona prior to this day?
Smooth riding. You know, a battle like it, you had lots of weight. The only difference you had was the roll, slow roll. After 3 years of that, they put me on this little destroyer, and you're like jumping from a, well, peas in a wash machine.
Yeah.
I think you're all over the place. Matter of fact, we get into typhoons, and that's bad business. But my bunk right in the bow, and you go over a 50-foot wave. You go up and you kind of look around like that, and then all of a sudden the bow goes down. You go down, and you hit bottoms. You just sit there wiggle. Then all of a sudden you just flops right back. My bunk mattress would never stay in that bunk. I get thrown out every time, and so all the rest of the chiefs. So we decided we're going to we just put on a Bay West, and I had a real nice spot down in our plotting room next to the circuit boards and everything else. And all you get there is a little bit of rock, roll. No, that was terrible. And we get at least during the typhoon season, we'd get at least one a week, and sometimes 2 in a day. Get out of one, right into the other. Get out around Midway and Wake Island, not through there. Yeah, it's rough water.
And you told me that compared to the Arizona, to the Coghlan, right, was like riding a bucking bronco or a bull. That's the difference. One was very easy, the other one was very difficult. But tell them how you liked the Coghlan versus the Arizona. Not just the Arizona, because that's special, but a battleship. I mean, they're night and day different.
The personnel, for one thing, battleships, you got to be pretty well in uniform of the day of some sort. all look alike. On the destroyers, you have a pair of dungarees, fine. If you had something else, it was fine, just as long as you did your job. If you want to get a good job, you get on the destroyer that you've got Bering Sea Patrol. Now there is one of the roughest spots in the world, I think. That's the Bering Sea coming down through Alaska, Russia corridor right there. It's only 20 miles. One sea is higher than the other, really. And well, they've lost more men up there just in the fishing industry, in which if you've eaten snow crabs, big ones, long-legged ones, that's where they get them, right up there.
When on the Coghlan,
Yeah.
and so it was so cold up there. Tell them about the guns and the icicles.
We had, every time a wave would come over the bow, it would leave part of the wave right there to where you get big icicles on it, and you had to go out and bust that thing off. You had to use those guns. And another little ditty there, torpedoes, sensitive. The torpedo director was only about maybe 2 foot square. You could not keep that thing dry inside. So, I had to just line up some of my guys, and they get all the clothes they could get on, and put them one man at a time out there on the nuts, bolts. It was only about 2 inches apart, all around that thing. Just anybody to hold that darn thing together. But you couldn't be out there more than 5 minutes. Your fingers was frozen. So you just run by the line up there. Go out and work in 5 minutes, then get back in and thaw them out again.
Cody, where's Cody? Just, how much time do we have here? So, because there's a number of stories that I want Lauren to share with everybody. Do we have enough time to keep going?
Yeah, could you tell us how he got off to Arizona on that day?
Sure. Well, I can do that. No problem? Okay. Well, they're bringing in dinner later anyway, so it's okay. Before I do that, well, I'll go back and I'll say the Purple Heart that Lauren is wearing, okay, was given to him by Commander Nimitz, okay?
Sir.
Admiral, sorry about that. Well, you know. And so the thing was, as all militaries, but particularly the United States, it was a couple years after Pearl Harbor before he received his Purple Heart. And he received it when he was on the Coghlan up in the Aleutians, right? So, but the story that I want Lauren to share with you is we're doing a documentary film together, Lauren and I, and it's called Second to the Last to Leave. Because Lauren, through our research, through my research, he was the second to the last to leave the USS Arizona. Okay, but we went back and Lauren spent an entire day at Pearl Harbor. We were filming. He became friends with Captain Jeff James, who is the commander of all of Pearl Harbor and all Hickam. And Captain James put together his own launch, motor launch, took Lauren and our film crew at 6 o'clock in the morning through a tour of all Pearl Harbor. Then we ended up at the Arizona Memorial just as the sun was coming up. No people, no tourists, and just Lauren and Daniel Martinez. He's the chief historian for the National Park Service at Pearl Harbor, and Captain James. And they spent about 3 hours talking story at the memorial and listening to Lauren. Lauren just turned 93 about a month ago, November 4th. And Captain James sent Lauren a photo of the two of them together for his wall, which is where it's being hung. And it said something to the effect, Lauren, happy birthday, you look fantastic, from one sailor to another, and Captain James, you know. So we've met some pretty interesting people, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And even today, you know, my cousin, Dean Jones, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah? And so, but the thing is, tell the people that are here, Lauren, you can see 1,000, if not 1,000,000. I don't know how many Purple Hearts they've given in the history of this country, but a lot. You'll never see a Purple Heart like Lauren's. So, Lauren, tell them about that story.
Well, this was invited to the offices of the Chief Naval Forces in Pacific. It was under the
Pons?
Admiral Pons. And we got quite a session going on there for a while. Kind of find out that he was from the deep south, and he loved his chicken. Well, the started all off when we got found out that chicken, and I had to tell him what I went into. Right at the end of the war, cooks all decided they were going to have a celebration here.
It's on the Coghlan.
Yeah, on the Cogan. And but they had to go down into the freezers and get the chickens and stuff out. Well, the cook asked me if I would send him a couple of men to help him. Okay, there's one thing there is if get it all done, food, I got to have all the giblets. And one of the people in there said, "What's giblets?" The Admiral said, "Good Lord," he says, "I'm from the South, I know what giblets is." But anyway, my two fellas set up to it, but yeah, they'd help through there. But one of them came back and he says, "Chief, better come down and take a look at these." I said, "Well, I don't need to look at them. The cook says, okay." "Oh, you better look at them." Okay, I come down and I looked at them. They were in wooden crates, all done up there, just crated and papered and whatnot. Open it up and look at it, and they were frozen. They were just black, blue, red, everything skin. Well, don't know. And the guy turned the box around. Back in 1918. And the cook says, "Well, they're still good." They're still good. That's all we got. I said, "Well, that's all we got, then by God, we'll eat them." Well, they turned out very good. But from the last shipment of somebody had come to the bottom of the freezer to get those two cases out. 1918 chickens.
And this was in 44?
1945.
45. So, so then tell him you were telling Admiral Pons about this story because he was from the South. And then what did he say and what did he give you?
Oh, he told everybody that when he found out nobody wanted what giblets was, he's from the South. By golly, he had all kinds of giblets. And anyway, that's all just, you probably know what giblets is anyway. That's all the hearts, gizzards, and everything that goes into your gravies or something like that now. Anyway, after conversations with the Admiral, I presented him with a hat like mine, and I had it signed myself. He looked at it, called his motion for his orderly over. The orderly went into his quarters and took the star off his
uniform.
Yeah, gave it to me.
And the Admiral actually pinned it on him.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, if you see it on here today, that's still there.
So, you know, and then Admiral Pons also sent a birthday photograph and a really nice letter. And I think one of the great things about the letter that the Admiral sent him for his birthday and the photograph was that he told Lauren that he was honored to consider him a friend, you know, and that is also on Lauren's wall. But there's two other things I just want to touch on. Tell him about that great naval battle. And I'm only a storyteller. I can't pronounce the English language. Komodorski?
Komodorski's.
Okay. Tell him that was up the Aleutians.
That was in 43, 42, 43. We had two new destroyers, two old destroyers, an old light cruiser and an old heavy cruiser. And they were too slow to go down south wherever it was. Anyway, the Japs were landing troops in the Aleutian Islands so they could come down the coast into onto the United States. And so we had to go up there and run them out. We got it was, I think it was, well, in early 43. But we decided that there's more Japs coming, there's more ships coming with this new batch of people to land. So we're going to go out and meet them, or at least try to find them. Well, we got as far as 400 miles due north of Japan itself. We were way up. And we jumped onto this whole group of ships that they were about almost twice as many ships as we had. I mean, that's of the fighting ships, not the troops and whatnot. So we had a battle there for 4 solid hours, shooting it out with them. And we finally got down to the close to the ends of the ammunition that we had, but at the same time, we had been playing hell with the Jap ships. We'd get into it within 5,000 yards, which is point blank to the big guns.
Yes.
And we killed several of the leading officers of the Jap fleet on their cruisers. And we were concentrating on the cruisers. The hell with them little fellas. Anyway, one of our cruisers got hit him right at the water line, so he was getting water in the fuel. So we went around, laying smoke, put him in a big smoke screen, so they couldn't see him. Well, then the admiral, or we only had a captain at that time. Ordered the four destroyers for a torpedo run, daylight. Never been done before. So we lined up. Mine was second in line. We got into a little, almost 4,000 yards, and then turned, everybody shot all their torpedoes. About 12 of them went out. 3 from each ship. And as soon as the Japs seen them coming, they took off. We went back behind the smoke screen and laid out for a while, see what was going to happen next. We didn't expect them to come steaming right on through, but no. Smoke lifted, looked around, nobody there. So we asked, broke silence, and called for air support. We waited an hour and a half. Nobody showed up. Waited another half hour. Long, here it come. An old lonesome PBY. You know, somebody knows what a PBY looks like.
Hey boss, the plane.
Yeah, that's all it was. They couldn't get the other ships or other planes off the ground there at Aleutians. But anyway, we all got back safely to the Aleutian Islands.
Let me just go, we'll back up a few years. Lauren joined the Navy after he graduated from Elma High School, which is a very little town up in Washington State. As a matter of fact, just 3 weeks ago, Lauren, for Veterans Day, was the Grand Marshal of the Veterans Day Parade in his hometown where he grew up. He went back to his high school and talked to the high school who stayed to meet him that afternoon. And that was the first time that he had been back to his high school since 1938. But the Navy would not take him at 17 years old. So he had to wait for 10 days after he turned 18, and then they called you, right? And they said, okay, you're in.
Yeah.
And then they shipped him by train down to San Diego, where he took boot camp. And then after 4 months, 3 months of boot camp and 1 month of peeling potatoes, something like that, right?
Yeah, you're in limbo waiting for the transportation.
Your orders, yeah? So he and about 12 other boots were sent to the USS Arizona as crewmen. And that was in, in Washington?
Yes.
in the Navy ship,
Bremerton shipyards.
Bremerton shipyards. So when Lauren got to be first time a crewman on the USS Arizona, it was in dry dock. And I remember one of the first things he ever told me, I asked him that same question, well, what did it look like in dry dock, the Arizona? He said, it was a pretty big bugger, you know? And so he spent, with all the sailors aboard that ship and all the crew members, he spent the next 2 to 3 weeks. What were you doing?
Up scaling, paint.
Chipping and painting.
Chipping and painting.
He says that's what you do in the Navy. So after that, he went back, the Arizona went back to Long Beach, California, which was where it was stationed, the 7th Fleet.
Fleet, yeah.
Yep. And, you know, life went on for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden he was out, I think, off the ship. Or were you on the ship when you saw Billy?
I was on the ship.
You were on the ship.
Yeah.
Some young boot comes up and taps him on the shoulder, and it's Lauren's best friend from high school. They ran track together at Elma High School. His name was Billy Mann. And so Lauren and Billy were continued to be fast friends up until Pearl Harbor, the day of Pearl Harbor. Then they used to, you know, I'll tell them, here's a good story. Tell them about you and Billy dating.
Oh.
That was a good one.
We'd go over to Long Beach, the Pike was over there. It was a lot of fun there. And walk around and just find a couple of nice looking girls. Come on, join up, have fun. So the next day, back after that evening, we'd sit down, and maybe Billy said, "Hey, I like that blonde you had last night." And I said, "Oh, well, your brunette was pretty good too." We'd switch. Switch partners. We did quite a few times. Finally, Billy found one. He said, "You're going to stick with that one for a while." Okay, well, I broke up that double dating stuff. That was a lot of fun, though.
Then Lauren had an opportunity that I think it was fall or I think it was early spring to go to. Remember, he's just 21 years old. He's even 18 at the time. And then he had a chance to go to a school to elevate his rank in the Navy, and he went to fire control school, correct?
Yeah.
Up in Northern California. And that's when he learned to become a key player on the director of the Arizona and of the battleship. And what the director is, and you tell me because, you know, I'm only a storyteller, you're the expert. The director is responsible for sighting the enemy, okay? And in those days, it was primarily ships, not necessarily airplanes, but eventually it was airplanes as well. So Lauren and his crew, including Don Stratton, okay, they were on the director, and what they would do is Lauren would they tell you, or a spotter would tell you where to look?
The spotter, we had an officer that go this one to the other direction, and then we would it was up to us to get the direction, speed, altitude, and everything else of the ships by using a computer that we had, and computers in those days wasn't like today. Today they're like ours was 30 inches wide, 35 inches tall, and 4 foot deep, completely full of just nothing but just
Information.
years.
Yeah.
years, and you had to crank in all the information, wind speeds and everything else, all that information in order to get it to the gunners, so they could fire a 1,200-pound projectile 20 miles to hit the target.
One of Lawrence, if you can imagine his particular job on the director, I just forgot what I was going to say. What is it when you look through not a telescope, binoculars? Okay, if you had a big set of binoculars and you had them pointed down and then the optics pointed it out, Lauren would be looking into this, okay, and he would be able to sight everything they told him to, including how close they were to hitting the target, correct?
Yeah, if they fire one shell, and we knew exactly where that yardage was from the target, where the drift or whatnot, we had to change the computers to correct everything up.
Because I'm not so sure on the time, but let me just, if we have extra time, he'll continue to talk, but because it's an emotional thing for Lauren, let me give just a brief overview. On the morning of, well, I love to tell this story, because we were just in Hawaii in September, and we went out, he and I and Ed went back to one of his old hangouts with his girlfriends. But on December 6th, okay, the night before Pearl Harbor, the attack on Pearl Harbor, Lauren was dating a very pretty Japanese barmaid. And after she closed her bar, they went up to the lookout, which overlooks the other side of the island.
On the Pali.
To the Pali. So last summer,
Yes.
in September, we went up to that same place, and Lauren told me the story all over again. The next morning, he had duty, correct?
Next morning, that's when we got hit.
Yeah, but I mean, you had duty that morning.
Most certainly.
So he was getting dressed, ready to go to church service, and then, you know, he had to be on the ship because of his battle station, this type of thing. And so he had on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and his shoes when the battle alarms went off, letting everybody on the ship know that they were being attacked. Lauren and his crew, like all the crew members on the Arizona, practice, getting to your battle station in as quick a time as possible. Lawrence was down to 2 minutes, okay? Some of you have the photos, and for those of you who don't, please ask me afterwards and I'll give you one. It shows just a picture of the USS Arizona. And this was the afternoon after it sank. Lauren has circled his battle station, okay, at the top of the ship. Now, what that battle station was is there's the crow's nest on the very, very top, and then I believe below that was your battle station, the director, huh?
Yeah.
And then after that was the Admiral's Bridge, and after that was the Captain's Bridge, and then everybody else below it. The fact is, destiny had Lauren at that battle station, gave him the job of being a director on that particular battle station. So when the battle alarms went off, Lauren, with the rest of his crew members, raced to his battle station. Now, let me tell you, the Japanese pilots were very good, and they were strafing the entire Pearl Harbor. So they were strafing the Arizona as this man, along with the rest of his crew, were running to their battle stations. The difference is he had to climb upstairs, what, 80 feet?
86.
86 feet, okay? And he could hear and he could see these planes, enemy aircraft coming in. You know, it's one of those things like he ran track in high school. It's like just when you get to the finish line, right? You think, I got it. A bullet
Got it.
got it. Yeah, a bullet got it. Right in his leg. Okay, just as he is about to enter the door of the director. And I asked him, I said, Lauren, what the hell did that feel like? He said, well, it felt like if somebody took you with a hot poker, just ran it across your leg. But he said, I was so pumped up, I didn't even think about it, right? So he was up in the director for about, and again, this is all historians can, about 10 minutes, maybe less than that. And a Japanese high altitude bomb was dropped, bounced off the second turret,
Yeah, turret number 2.
turret number 2, and then between turret number 2 and turret number 1 went down, and it exploded at the bottom of the ship in the ammunition magazine. Correct? Now remember Lauren's best friend, Billy Mann. Lauren's battle station was on top of the ship. Billy's kept the keys to the ammunition locker. So Billy has always been a special angel of Lauren's and all of his family since that day. When that happened, the ship completely was engulfed by a fireball, the likes of which I've seen actual film of it. And when you see that, and because I know Lauren so well, I think, how in the hell was anybody ever able to survive that? But 300 and some men did survive it. This is one of...
Well, that wasn't exactly true there. 348 men were not all included. The officers, chiefs, high-rated petty officers had their wives and whatnot over at the barracks quarters on the beach. How many of them, we don't know. But we know that there wasn't too many of us left on the ship itself.
You mean as far as survivors go?
Yeah.
My research indicates there was probably around 90 survivors from the actual ship that were able to get off the ship. Now Lauren, Don Stratton, and 4 other crewmen from the director, you know, the ship is completely engulfed in flame. This gentleman was burned over 70% of his body. Don Stratton was burned, all the people in the director, because, and the thing that saved his life, a number of things, 3 things I'll tell you about. The director above the captain's, or above the admiral's bridge was on a metal platform, correct, Lauren? Okay, so when the fireball came up from the depths of the ship, it hit that metal and it went around it, and then it came into the director from the sides. Everything below that, 90% of those people perished. Okay? So you've got this gentleman, the ship is sinking, fire all over, and the metal from that picture is so hot that if you touched it, you'd burn yourself. And he and his fellow crewmen were out looking for a way off. Now the first thing I told him, not knowing anything, or I didn't tell him, I asked him, well, Lauren, couldn't you just jump in the water? He said, no, you hit the deck. Because it was how many feet from your thing to the water? 40, 50?
Sideways.
From my
Sideways.
director,
In other words, from the director.
86 feet.
No, I don't mean that. If you jumped off the director trying to make the edge of the ship the water.
Oh.
You see what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, you were approximately 37 feet.
So there's not much chance, even though your brain tells you you want to jump. His brain said, I don't think so. And so did the rest of the people that were with Lauren. So they were trying to figure out a way. You've got to remember, these people were absolutely, totally burned. There was a repair ship, as Lauren mentioned, called the Vestal. and had been moored next to the Arizona for a time. They were installing new counters in the kitchen for that weekend, but they didn't have to start until Monday. Anyway, one of the first things that Lauren ever told me was that one of his heroes, one of Lauren's heroes, is a gentleman by the name of Alvin Dvorak. And he was about Lauren's same age. And he was one of Lauren's crewmen, but it was Alvin who got the attention of a gentleman on the vessel by the name of Joseph George, who ultimately saved Lauren's life and his crew, because he made the vessel stop in the water and he threw him a line, okay? And again, I learned this from him, from the master. A monkey fist, which is a piece of metal with a rope tied around it. They threw it to Alvin, and he was what class? Because he knew how to tie nuts.
Oh, he was second class boatswain.
Bosun, okay, so he knew what he was doing. Then they pulled a larger line from the vessel, okay, and they tied it up, and Lauren and each of these men went hand over hand over hand over hand to the vessel where they were rescued. Once the last person got over there, they cut that line, and they took Lauren and Alvin Dvorak to the USS Solace, which was the hospital ship moored in the bay. But let me back up a second. Alvin Dvorak was Lauren's hero because he saved his life. Through my knowledge of Lauren and this type of thing, Lauren thought that Alvin had probably perished 2 or 3 days after that because he's burned over 80% of his body. In fact, the military hospital at Pearl Harbor decided to send Alvin Dvorak back to San Francisco on the first ship that was commandeered by the Navy to transport people that were hurt badly. Alvin Dvorak passed away 17 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor on Christmas Eve. The beautiful thing is, I've read the accounts of a Navy nurse holding his hand at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on that afternoon. And she wrote in her diary what it was like for this man. But then, jump back a second, when this man got to the USS Solace with Alvin, they walked up the gangplank and they were met by a Navy nurse, corpsman, and maybe a couple other people. And the nurse, first thing she did was give him a shot of morphine and then put a mark on his forehead in lipstick to signify not to give the guy another shot of morphine. You see what I mean? And so Lauren says at the time he couldn't even remember them cutting the rest of his clothes away because he was out. And then a couple days later when he woke up, the doctor, I'm not sure I don't want to go to this doctor, but the doctor advised Lauren because his hands were charcoal, burnt that badly. You tell him. Tell him a story what the doctor told you.
Well, he come in and he says, hey, he says, those are not going to be any good for you anymore. They want to amputate the last 3 fingers, both hands. I said, no, you ain't. Do the best you can. And they're still good.
And that's how we got here today, and I just was notified by my wife who gave me the okay, on behalf of Lauren, and I'll let him express that as well. Thank you guys for coming today and meeting a true American hero. I feel privileged to call him my close friend, and I hope that you, through your life, will be able to recount this afternoon to your children, your friends, and your grandchildren that you actually met, knew, and were a friend of Lauren Faye Bruner from the USS Arizona.